Hello, my name is Zachary Stevens Walter, and I serve as the Director of Children and Youth Ministries at the Fort Washington Collegiate Church, and this is my African heritage. I come from a family where every color under the rainbow is represented. Light-skinned, dark-skinned, we run the gamut. All my cousins and extended family are different shades and colors. There are many of us, but our African heritage in particular runs strong through the legacies of my grandparents. When they migrated north from Mississippi to Iowa during the Great Migration, it was for opportunities and as an expression of their freedom. My grandfather was discovered as a talented athlete and was offered the opportunity to attend college in New Mexico. He left Iowa with my grandmother when she was only 17 years old. His name is Don Perkins, and he went on to become a widely recognized football player, eventually retiring from the NFL and being inducted into the Ring of Honor of the Dallas Cowboys. Sports is something like a family business for us. I would love to brag about his accomplishments or the accomplishments of my cousin Paul, or my cousin Anthony, or my cousin Michelle, or my cousin Nicole. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Even my grandmother, Don Perkins' former wife, Virginia, eventually retired from the Bank of America as an executive. This is her praying over a lion. Fierce, I know. In my family, excellence is not presented as a gold standard somehow beyond reach, but rather as our status quo. To be black and privileged is a unique context. It's complicated to own both the privilege I receive from my black family as well as the realities of life as an African American in this country. My mother says that handcuffs are handcuffs. Even if they are padded, gold-plated velvet handcuffs, they still do their job. My mother, working to undo her own handcuffs, hoped to protect my brother and myself from some of the realities of life in this country. So when I was 4 years old, she moved us to a rural piece of land in the middle of the desert, far away from the attention my family receives. As a result, my upbringing was largely protected from the realities of black life. It wasn't until college that I learned what it really feels like in my body to be black in America. My best friends growing up, when I was homeschooled, were the birds and the rabbits. I took my famous family and my carefree childhood for granted. When COVID-19 arrived in New York in March of 2020, my parents reacted in much the same way they did when I was 4 years old. They packed me and my partner and all of our children up and brought us right back to New Mexico. When we were there, we explored each other and discussed our futures, but more importantly for me, we discussed our pasts, and I learned to appreciate my African heritage in new ways. I learned to appreciate my hair, which represents the strength of the African spirit that transcends culture, that is my birthright. I learned to play the banjo, an instrument invented on American soil by black African immigrants that was based on the Ngoni and Nkanting of their home cultures. I discovered the roots of Christian history in Africa in a way I didn't learn in seminary. In the first few centuries, when Christians had been killed and destroyed in the Roman Empire, it was the bishops of Africa who maintained the traditions and kept alive the tradition of Christian theology. Most theologians even today are unaware that nearly all of the great theologians of the Council of Nicaea were African bishops. Tertullian and Cyprian come from Tunisia, and Cyprian in particular comes from a Berber family. Origen is from Alexandria. Augustine of Hippo was Algerian. Again, I could go on and on. I joined an order of St. Francis during the pandemic to honor this legacy of monastic tradition that has been preserved in Christianity by Africans. I am still discovering the legacies of Africa that are in me and in my world, but I have learned I am who I am, and I am also who came before me. I come from a tradition of warriors, brilliant survivalists, who make a way when life seems hopeless. My children are a different color than me, and I know they might not know their African heritage if I don't work to protect it. It is my hope that in preserving my African heritage, my children won't have to look so hard to find theirs. This is what my African heritage means to me.